understand our mission. They themselves are committed.
Would be to work within that community, even across. Hi, I'm Dorian Lam, and welcome to Season 2 of Start with the Close in Mind. In real estate, business, and life, the people who win aren't the ones who react. They prepare, they think ahead, they see the close long before the rest of the room does. After a year of conversations with top operators and decision makers, this season goes even deeper into what it takes to close deals the right way. We'll break down the strategies, the mistakes, the mindset, and the real stories that reveal how successful people navigate complexity and come out on top. Every episode brings insights from leaders who have been in the trenches and can show you the difference between hoping a deal closes and engineering the outcome from the start. This is Season 2 of Start with the Close in Mind. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome everyone to the next episode of Start with the Close in Mind. Today, we're talking about something that many developers and builders misunderstand: how nonprofit owner-operators like the Chinese American Planning Council, or CPC, think and operate. Because of their mission-driven focus, CPC is involved in complex transactions that often include public and private funding. However, the trade-off is that they have access to deals and financing channels that are not available to others. So for developers and builders that are interested in meeting non-for-profits or not-for-profits, or meeting with organizations like CPC, understanding how they evaluate opportunities and partners is really important. So what are we going to unpack today? How CPC thinks about partnerships and alignment, what qualities they look for in developers and general contractors, and of course, how to start with the close in mind when pursuing partnerships with mission-driven owners. So without further ado, I'm excited to have Mr. Wayne Ho, President and CEO of the Chinese American Planning Council, on the show today. Wayne, welcome. Let's start with some background. Why don't we start with a little background on CPC and your role there?
Great. Thanks, Dorian, for having me today. And I'm excited to be here and join you all on this podcast. So the Chinese American Planning Council was founded in 1965 in Manhattan's Chinatown with the mission to promote the social and economic empowerment of Chinese American immigrant and low-income New Yorkers. And after 61 years, we have now grown to become the largest Asian American social services nonprofit in the entire country. We have over 5,000 dedicated staff who serve nearly 80,000 New Yorkers of all ages and backgrounds across all 5 boroughs of New York City. And we do everything from daycare to after-school programs to senior centers and senior affordable housing, to home care, to supporting individuals through public benefits. But through all our work, we want to make sure that we maintain being mission-driven, and that includes not just serving the community and empowering the community, but we also hire from the community and make sure that we're serving the whole individual and the whole family across generations.
That's great, Wayne. What a great cause. Since 1965 and 5,000 strong. That's impressive. For those who may not understand CPC's model, that being, mission-driven and tied to a cause, how would you describe how you view deals? And then we'll talk later on about how you view partners.
As a nonprofit organization that prioritizes our mission, we are able to deliver services for free to seniors and immigrants and job seekers and young people because we're able to raise public and private funding. Like other multi-service nonprofit organizations, CPC is predominantly government funded. We get contracts from the city, the state, and the federal government, and we add on to our services through private funding from individuals or corporations or foundations. So because we are mission driven, when we do our real estate deals, which includes mixed use developments to building affordable housing, we want to find partners that understand that we are committed to a mission, that we want to maximize affordable housing, that we want to serve and center the community. And we understand that developers and general contractors and lawyers and other in the real estate field are aiming to make a profit. But we want to partner with those who understand our mission. They themselves are committed to a community, and they realize that we can partner together for a win-win where it supports CPC's mission and it also supports their interests.
Yep, that's a really important delineation, right? In terms of it having to tie to a cause and the mission, as you've alluded to, in accomplishing what it is that you're out there to accomplish and what it is set as the expectation when you're getting funding from either private donors or a public entity or an agency. When, as the lead up to this episode, I was talking about, how you view partners, and obviously with all the different kind of elements that are involved with how you think about real estate deals. I'm assuming it carries over to how you think about executing it as well. And part of executing it is finding the right partners. So when a developer or general contractor or anybody that is on the service side to help you accomplish your goal approaches you about partnering, what are you evaluating first?
You want to make sure we have partners who are really committed to the mission of the organization and to the community. So that means understanding that as a nonprofit, there are certain complexities and hoops that we have to jump through. We're mostly government funded, and when we do our projects, we have city or state capital funding. So there's certain conditions that they need to meet, and we want to make sure that any developer or general contractor has been vetted by the city, understands that we have to go through our board of directors for a lot of decisions, and we might not necessarily move as quickly as the real estate field does, and understands how to engage with government officials or elected officials for any project. We also want to make sure that they're just not parachuting in and trying to profit off a project, that they do understand that we are of the community, we're from the community, and we always want to stay in the community. So they have to have some understanding of the neighborhoods that we serve, as well as the Chinese American and immigrant experience. And last but not least, we do see this as a long-term partnership. So it's not just about building a building or building affordable housing. It's about building and supporting and empowering a community together. So we want to make sure that our developer partners will invest in CPC, that if there's opportunities for them to volunteer or join our leadership council or board of directors, or just donate to our causes through our annual gala or through our programs, that they understand that it's them investing in CPC and not just trying to finish a project and then walk away.
Yeah. It adds to another layer of assessing who you're going to align with. And there's not only the element of whether or not they can execute. It is a question I'm going to ask in terms of, what gives you confidence in someone that they can execute. But before we even get to that, it's just, it adds layers to it because, it's really tough, especially in the free market trades of saying, you can't be capital driven, right? Because the majority of the players out there are capital driven, profit driven, to be even more specific. But what you're explaining is that an opportunity to work with you guys is an opportunity beyond profit. It has to be, for and in alignment with the cause, and not only in alignment with the cause, but also getting through the term you used, hoops, that you have to, for your responsibility, make sure that they get through. So as one of them, obviously execution is part of it. What gives you confidence early on, or what gives you confidence early that someone can execute in general, if there's an answer to that?
I mean, it's about 10 years ago, we went through a lengthy process to find a developer partner to build the Broome Street development project. And this was a mixed-use project on a parking lot that used to be attached to CPC's 1980s senior affordable building. And we wanted to have an opportunity then to be mission driven on this parking lot by maximizing affordable housing, building our new headquarters and Manhattan Community Center, as well as renovating a condemned synagogue. And through this process, we were lucky that we found a developer like the Gotham organization. It's a fifth generation family owned developer by the Pickett family, and their current CEO is David Pickett. And we had confidence in Gotham because they had experience working with other not-for-profit organizations. They have success going through the land use process. They were able to build affordable housing through different models, whether it's Mitchell Lamas or senior affordable housing through city programming or accessing state subsidies. So we were confident in not just their competence and experience, but also that they had on-the-ground experience with other not-for-profit organizations, and they were able to deliver a mixed use project with others. So we were confident that they could do that for us in a very complicated project with multiple players and dealing with neighborhood politics to elected officials to making sure that we can maximize affordable housing in a very tough Manhattan market. And I think we've
Yeah.
done that by having a really great project on the Chinatown Lower East Side that is now publicly known as CPC1. And working with Gotham, we were able to bring in 210 units of affordable housing that's deeply skewed, as well as building a 40,000 square foot community center for CPC, where we're serving about 15,000 New Yorkers every year. And last but definitely not least, bringing back a 5,000 square foot facility for the synagogue that unfortunately was condemned and burned down. So it just reflects the diversity of the neighborhood and also an understanding through this partnership of how to support our mission for the community.
Yeah. In describing that project, that embodies literally everything that you're trying to accomplish. Start from the beginning, which is that I think I heard parking lot, I think I heard synagogue, I think I heard condemned. I mean, that's already enough a mouthful to even say. And then just even what you ended up with accomplishing housing, accomplishing a community facility, and then having something else even to boot. That's a remarkable achievement, and it does really highlight. Thank you for answering that in terms of what you do look for. What are some of what I would say the misunderstandings of the process? Because naturally, the feeling is that with any community, the desire or the urge would be to work within that community, even across the service providers. And for the purpose of this discussion, what we're talking about with developers, contractors, and general contractors. Any insight you can add to that? Because, obviously it's mission driven, and the idea would be logically that it would be within that same community as well.
As a mission driven organization, it's not just about achieving our mission by serving the community. We also achieve our mission by hiring from the community, having vendors from the community, and engaging with community partners, whether you're small businesses or houses of worship or corporations or others, to make sure we're all moving together. So that's a reason why when we have, for example, vendors who sell supplies to us for our after school programs, or when we have vendors who provide catering to our senior centers, or when we want to have bus companies, when we take our community members up to Albany for our advocacy days, we use vendors from our community, from our Chinese American community, which is what we also aim to do when we're doing our real estate projects. I think one of the challenges is that there's a lot of conditions that city and state capital funding puts on any developer or general contractor. And it seems that there's not as many Chinese American or Asian American companies that are satisfying these conditions. And I think that's where it's important for any organization that's trying to do business development amongst the Chinese American, Asian American communities should come together and really engage with the city of New York and the state of New York to make sure there is easier ways to be either certified as an NWBE, or an easier way to access capital funding, or a lower bar around some of the requirements and conditions that government funding is mandating.
Yeah. And, in the ideal situation, you would be able to, tie into all of that. But like you said, there are also requirements on that end that, at least at this point in time, the hope would be that there would be more opportunities to work with Chinese Americans from the service and vendor side. So for those who are listening, it does help if you are, outwardly reaching out and building relationships on the business development side to help achieve that so that Wayne has more options. Speaking of that, right, let's remember the name of my show is Start with the Close in Mind. And with that in mind, if I'm a partner, it could be anyone, how would you recommend that I prepare before initiating a conversation with you?
Yeah, I think it's important for anyone who wants to engage with not just CPC, but any not-for-profit organization, is to understand our mission, understand our history, understand the community members that we are serving and representing, and understand what are our real goals. For the example that I gave you with CPC1, we wanted to maximize affordable housing and develop our new headquarters and community facility and renovate a synagogue. And that's what our goal has always been, is to bring in a mixed use project, but also bring in a mixed use project that's not just have a developer say, well, here's your building, and they walk away.
Mm.
We want to make sure they're staying a partner with us, again, not just on delivering services and investing in our work and our community, but they need to understand they have experience and expertise too. So are delighted that, for example, the Gotham organization is doing the property management, that they work with us on dealing with all the tax filings and all the annual filings with the city and the state of New York. That we want to make sure that it's not just about a development project, but it's that moving forward, we have to partner together on the operations. And more importantly, we need to work together on continuously investing in resources and services for our community.
Yeah. So it has to go beyond transactional. Partnership in general, especially with deals, and then even more so with our topic, which is real estate. It's often said that partnerships are like marriages, but in this case, it's beyond marriage. It's a long-term marriage, right? Because there's a an alignment that is important up front that naturally would make sense to continue as well. And the expectation is that we're in this for the long haul, right? So I think that I've picked up on some of the things that I used the term misunderstand, in terms of number one, which is that, this can take longer than expected just from the execution standpoint. And then you add in the fact that there's some expectations that it's a true partnership, that it's not, all right, here's the building, see you later. It's how do we continue to align our goals together and help you, right?
And to that point, because we are a mission driven organization and the Chinese American community is so rapidly growing, and we're no longer just in Manhattan's Chinatown or Sunset Park, Brooklyn, or Flushing, Queens, that we're in so many neighborhoods, that we are always interested in going where our community is. So there's a growing Chinese American community on the North Shore of Staten Island, or there's a growing Chinese American community in Western Queens along Long Island City and Astoria, for example. Different parts of Brooklyn have a fast growing Chinese American population. East Harlem has a growing Chinese American population. So when we work with a developer, it's not just about, for example, bring us our mixed use project to completion and work with us in Chinatown, Lower East Side, but we are open to more opportunities, that if they are looking at projects in any of these neighborhoods that have a growing or a larger Chinese American population, we are definitely committed to working together to figure out then how we as CPC can bring our services to those neighborhoods to support you as a developer who's trying to build something, hopefully a mixed use project with good affordable housing and a good community facility in those same neighborhoods.
Yeah, that's a great point. It is burgeoning from the perspective of that. Yeah, it's not only just Lower East Side or Chinatown or Sunset Park in Brooklyn, or even Flushing now, because that's somewhat, thought of when you think of Asian communities, but it has branched out to other areas. So there are other areas of impact that others can represent, and either bringing to you or making you aware of that, or partnering from the perspective of, I see an opportunity here because there is a growing Chinese American population that could use help, right? That's great, Wayne. Is there anything else? I like to always ask, what is something most people misunderstand about your role?
I would say that there's a general misunderstanding of this term nonprofit. When I tell people that I run a nonprofit organization, the immediate question is, oh, how do you make a living? And I remind them that the organization is nonprofit, but we need financial resources to carry out our mission. Too often we have government contracts that pay us 85 cents on the dollar. Government contracts dictate wages of our workers, and we have to negotiate to pay higher wages to our workers. And that's the reason why it's important to have either developers, general contractors, private funders, and individuals understand that a good cause is not enough. We need good partnerships with financial resources to make sure that we not only deliver quality services, but we are paying living wages and great benefits to our own workers.
That's great. I can imagine that way. And it's like, how do you make a living? What are you doing? There's always misconception with that, which is why that's one of my favorite questions to ask, because it always sheds light on what people view is a given when it really isn't. Wayne, I want to thank you for your time today. We've learned so much about how mission-driven owner and operators like you operate. Number one, applause to you and the cause that CPC is representing. From 1965 and strong and really making an impact, especially from the sounds of the Broome Street project. From what you said, it was a very good and big success. Shout out to Gotham for being such a great partner to you. And again, I want to thank you for taking the time and dropping some insight. Wayne, before we wrap, where can listeners learn more about CPC and to follow you and your work?
Please feel free to find CPC online. Our website is www.cpc-nyc.org. We also have 40 locations throughout the city in Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan. And we just opened up an office on Staten Island. So you can also drop in any of our 40 locations to get services that you need.
That's really impressive. Wayne, thank you again. The audience has learned a lot today. I have learned a lot today. Thank you for helping those start with the close in mind.
Thank you very much.